Hi, my name is Bea Copin, and I am in the Clark Air Base in Pampanga, where President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. led the inspection of two C-130T aircraft. Those are the planes that you saw behind me before the camera panned to my face. Just a quick background on these two planes. Their tail numbers are 5040 and 5011. They were acquired from the United States via the Excess Defense Articles Program. They were turned over actually in 2016, pero yung tail number 540 underwent maintenance in Portugal in 2021, while 5011 has a special airborne mission installation and response system installed onto it. Yung Sabir na yon, they call it Sabir. It's an avionics module that's bolt-in, bolt-off. Ibig sabihin ngayon naka-install siya sa 5011, pero kung kailanganin, pwede siyang ilagay sa 5040. Now, quickly, just to understand what the Sabir system is, according to the PAF, it enables aircraft to have advanced command and control, communications, computer and surveillance and reconnaissance capabilities while being still usable as a cargo plane. Kasi kung hindi ka super familiar, yung C-130, ito yung mga aeroplano that you usually see or that the Air Force or the military typically uses to transport its troops. And in the case of humanitarian emergencies, calamities, yun din yung ginagamit either to bring in equipment and supplies into the disaster area and to bring people out of the disaster area. According to PAF Commanding General Lieutenant General Pareño, these two planes expand not just the carrier capability of the Air Force, carrier capability, ibig sabihin yung the sheer amount of people na it can bring around or fly around the country, but also its surveillance capability, again, referring to the Sabir system. But interestingly, when President Marcos spoke during the event here, he didn't emphasize the surveillance capabilities of the two planes. Instead, he emphasized how they can be used or how they can enhance the PAF's humanitarian response. President Marcos also thanked Portugal. Again, Portugal is where C-130T with tail number 5040 underwent its routine maintenance, and also United States. Also to take note lang, no, one of the guests during the event earlier was United States Ambassador to the Philippines, Mary Kay Carlson. Now, according to the palace, although the Air Force did not mention this, nor was this mentioned during the speeches earlier, the two planes may be or will be used for maritime patrols along the coast of Batanes or Zambales. Ngayon, side note, this is the first event of President Marcos before the military, following a announcement that Malacanang will be pushing forward with a long-standing proposal to reform the Philippine military and the uniformed services pension program. That was announced by Finance Chief Ben Jokno during a palace briefing on Tuesday. President Marcos actually is talking to more military men. May talk to the troops siya. Unfortunately, that event is not open to media. But you will find out from the palace if the proposal to revise or to reform the pension program was discussed or if it wasn't. So quickly lang, because this is potentially a sticky issue among the military and the uniformed service of the Philippines. This is not new. Several administrations have been trying really hard to revise or to reform the pension program of the Philippines. These are the things that the Marcos administration is proposing. First of all, the new program will apply to all new and currently serving active members of the military or the uniformed personnel. The mandatory contributions will be imposed upon them. If you're not familiar with the current system, our military personnel and the uniformed services, referring to the BJMP, the Bureau of Fire, PNP, among others, they do not have mandatory contributions. That's in contrast to people, diba, you may contributions tayo sa SSS, or in the case of government employees, GSIS. Now, if this pushes through via legislation, you will see soldiers and uniformed personnel having mandatory contributions. Staggered naman yun, may percentage na the government will initially shoulder. Eventually, pataas ng pataas yung contributions ng military and uniformed personnel. Yung status quo in the Philippines is that the pension of all the retired personnel from the military and uniformed services that's budgeted in the the National Expenditure Program. So gastos lahat ng gobyerno yun. Retirement will be eligibility to receive pension will be adjusted to retirement age, and the most contentious of the proposals will be yung pagtanggal ng automatic indexation, meaning mag-a-adjust yung pension mo kung tumaas yung sahod ng karango mo currently in active service. So pataas ng pataas yung pension ng isang retired uniform personnel habang tumataas yung sahod ng active personnel. That's a very contentious issue. Surprisingly, or maybe not surprisingly, the DND hasn't actually addressed or spoken about the proposal to really push yung reform ng pension program. Neither have President Marcos's allies in Congress, including allies or legislators, members of Congress who were formerly in the military or in the uniformed services. So that is definitely a story that we will be sticking to. And again, like I mentioned, President Marcos has a talk to the troops with soldiers here in Pampanga. We aren't allowed access to that, but we'll find out sooner, within the day probably, if he did bring up the pension program. Again, this has been Bea Copin in Pampanga, covering initially President Marcos's inspection of the new C-130 or the recommissioning of C-130T aircraft here in the Philippine Air Force. Thank you for watching.